It was 1989. I was fresh out of college with a diploma in hand, but feeling kind of lost about what to do next. Been backpacking before, so I figured a solo hike on the Appalachian Trail might help me figure things out. Planned a 43-mile trek starting in South Carolina. First 7 days I'd be roughing it solo, then meet up with a friend for the rest. My folks weren't worried. They knew I could handle myself. So November 4th I hit the trail. First couple of days were amazing. Gorgeous weather, stunning scenery, and all this time to just be with myself. But on day 3, woke up in my tent with this intense dread. Couldn't pinpoint it, but something felt off. Checked my supplies, everything there. Pushed it aside, figured fresh air would clear my head. Packed up and started hiking, glancing at the tree line now and then. Not looking for anything in particular, just taking it in. Then I swear I saw a man standing about 30 feet away behind a tree. Did a double take. Broad daylight near the trail. Didn't make sense, but he was gone. Stood there for a minute, confused. Was it my imagination? Did I really see someone? Why weren't they coming out? We were practically in the middle of nowhere, but the guy never showed, and this weird feeling of being watched intensified. It felt just like the dread I had earlier, like some predator was lurking. Even though I couldn't be sure, alone in the woods will do that to you. And since this mysterious dude wasn't showing himself, it started to feel threatening. Panic set in, and I packed up as fast as I could, took off down the trail away from where I saw him, but the whole time I felt like someone was right behind me. Kept turning around, checking, but nothing. Yet that feeling of being watched, that dread, wouldn't go away, so I started walking faster, then running. Realized I was in a remote part of the trail, far from civilization and my rendezvous point. Needed to get off the trail, find a road, get out of there ASAP, either continue for miles, reaching civilization only at night, or take a shortcut, a road supposedly running parallel but way downhill. I was pretty sure it was there, and the fear of this unseen pursuer was so intense I decided to ditch the trail. Couldn't stand the thought of another night with someone stalking me. Headed up the trail and started running down the mountain. Soon I started hearing noises coming from where I thought my follower was. Turned around, nothing. Kept walking, listening, and heard footsteps far away. Turned again, nothing. But I was certain someone was following me, stalking me. The noises sounded like a deep male voice, but not a language, more like grunts or yells. My heart was pounding, pure panic. Walked as fast as I could, just hoping I was heading towards the road. But after miles of walking and running, no road, and darkness was falling. I was lost. Had to set up camp alone, knowing something was out there, and I had no way to contact anyone. No cell phones back then. It was 1989. Zipped up my tent, hoping not to hear any sounds. And sure enough, within minutes, the noises started again. Heavy footsteps around my tent, all night long. Luckily, they never came too close, but the fear was constant. Finally, sunrise. Packed up and kept running, hoping to find the road. All day, that feeling of being watched persisted. Footsteps, grunts, but never saw a thing. By sunset, still no road, no trail. Couldn't even backtrack, scared I'd run into whatever I was trying to escape. Set up camp again, same fear, same noises. Then, as I drifted off to sleep, the heavy footsteps started again, circling my tent. Woke up, packed up, and started running once more, hoping for civilization. A couple of days later, when I was supposed to meet my friend, they got worried. No sign of me. They contacted authorities, filed a missing person report. A massive search ensued. Hundreds of people scouring the area for 14 days, no sign. Finally, they had to call it off. 2 days later, after 23 days since I started my hike, a hunter found me huddled against a tree, emaciated, dehydrated, delirious, but alive. At first, I thought he was the one who'd been chasing me, but he was there to help. He took me back, and after checking out at the hospital, I was mostly okay, just dehydrated and weak. In interviews and my official statement, I poured my heart out about being chased for nearly 3 weeks, not knowing who or why, and then something even more chilling. Just before the hunter found me, this thing whatever it was got so close a couple of times that I panicked. Ditched my backpack, the one with my life-saving gear, sleeping bag, tent, food, water, anything to run faster. Just the thought of what I was fleeing gave me the strength to leave everything behind. After ditching the pack, I stumbled upon a tree with a hidden cache of donuts and pound cake. That, along with stream water, kept me alive until I was found. I have no explanation, and neither does law enforcement. Some think I had a mental breakdown, fabricated the whole thing, just got lost and paranoid. Others, including park rangers, believe I might have been stalked by wild men, people living off the land, known for occasional aggression. They fit the description, but there's no concrete proof. To this day, the cause of my ordeal remains a mystery. Was it a predator, a wild man, or something else entirely? Whatever it was, it left me forever changed. The experience pushed me to my limits, testing my strength and resilience. It's a terrifying memory, but also a reminder of my own resourcefulness and the kindness of strangers like the hunter who saved me. And while the answers may never come, the story of my Appalachian Trail nightmare serves as a cautionary tale, a reminder of the unseen dangers that can lurk in the wilderness and the power of the human spirit to survive against all odds. This was back in the early 2000s. Me and Marion, we've been hiking parts of the Appalachian Trail before, but this time we decided to tackle the Southern Virginia section. It's remote, less traveled, and we figured it'd be a good challenge. We packed up, planned our route to end in Damascus, a town with beautiful scenery, and hit the trail in early October when the leaves were changing colors. The first few days were smooth, but things got weird after a few nights. We camped off the main trail for some peace and quiet, but at 2 a.m., Marion wakes me up in a panic saying someone's outside our tent with a sharp object. Now, I always carry a pistol and a revolver when I hike in remote areas just in case. So I immediately grabbed my gun and we waited in silence, hearts pounding. After a few minutes, we heard someone snap a twig nearby. I couldn't stay put, so I crept out of the tent, flashlight in hand, but turned off, trying not to give away my position. Suddenly, a snap and crack. Not an animal, but heavy footsteps. I whipped out my flashlight and caught a glimpse of someone hiding behind a tree. I yelled at them to get lost, reminding them I was armed. They ran off and I didn't chase after them, worried about Marion. We stayed awake, guarding the tent until morning. I found a boot print near the tent, not mine or Marion's. Someone was definitely stalking us. The most disturbing part is that it seemed like they were trying to look into the tent through the side zip-up window. I didn't tell Marion, not wanting to scare her any more than she already is. With 2 days left, we packed up and hiked faster, feeling followed the whole day. That night we camped near a cliff, Marion with my pistol, me with the revolver, both on edge. Fear kept me awake, but eventually I drifted off. I woke up later to someone rummaging outside the tent. Gun in hand, I woke Marion and whispered to stay quiet. The firelight revealed someone outside, no doubt about it. I yelled, and they dropped what they were stealing and ran. I chased after them with my gun drawn, finding scattered items and their tracks by a creek. I saw flickering lights across the creek, more of them. We packed up immediately, leaving the tent and some stuff behind, and hurried back to the trail. It was still night, but we weren't sticking around. The whole walk back, I thought I heard voices and branches cracking, constantly looking over my shoulder. We were terrified, miles from anywhere. We hadn't seen another soul for days. It was getting deadly serious, and we've become hyper-aware of the fact that we are in true danger. The fact that they knew we were armed and still continued to stalk us, however many of them were out there. It seemed like we were watched, surrounded, and stalked like prey. This was the most vulnerable I've ever felt in my life. I couldn't bear if anything would happen to Marion, and I couldn't protect her. We kept trekking along, and even after covering a lot of ground, we still heard something behind us. Then we saw someone on the trail, just a dark figure. As the sun rose, I demanded answers, but they just stared, their silhouette backlit by the early morning sunlight. They said nothing. They just stood there, staring, and walked away. We picked up our pace, constantly expecting them to show up again. Finally, after what felt like forever, we reached the end of the trail. Exhausted and scared, we made it out of the Virginia woods. I've never been happier seeing paved roads. We never found out who they were or what they wanted, but one thing's for sure, we never came back again. And for many years, we avoided remote hiking trails entirely. The year was 2017. Me, Sarah, Emily, and Ben, college buddies who were basically glued by late-night pizza runs and a shared love for getting lost in the wild, decided to conquer Baxter State Park for a fall camping trip. Leaves were like a paintbrush explosion, air crisp enough to bite, and the campfire crackling like a symphony for tired souls. Pure magic, right? But magic don't last forever, especially not in the woods after 2 a.m. Emily lets out this scream that could wake the dead, jolting us out of our dreams like squirrels surprised by a nut thief. Her flashlight is dancing around like crazy, aimed at the tree line. "Did you see that?" she whispers, voice shaken like a leaf in a hurricane. A flash of light moving between the trees like someone watching us. Now we brushed it off at first. Shadows play tricks, right? But the unease lingered like a pebble stuck in your shoe. The next day, even the hike deeper into the woods felt different. Every snap of a twig, every rustle of leaves had us jumping at shadows. Even the sunlight dappled through the trees seemed to hide something sinister. Then, just as dusk painted the sky orange and purple, it happened again. A flicker of light just at the edge of our vision, vanishing before we could be sure. This time, though, Ben swears he saw it too. His flashlight locking onto a pair of glowing eyes in the darkness, followed by a growl that sent shivers down our spines like ice picking at our bones. Terror froze us in place. We packed up camp faster than a squirrel finding an acorn jackpot, leaving our planned itinerary behind like yesterday's news. The walk back was pure torture. Every shadow morphed into a monster, every sound a potential threat. We stumbled out of the woods like refugees from a nightmare, drained and scared, the forest itself seeming to hold its breath behind us. The authorities, bless their hearts, searched high and low but found nothing. No footprints, no signs of struggle, just us four friends and the memory of that damn flashlight cutting through the darkness. A constant reminder of the unseen eyes watching us. The mystery never got solved, just a whisper in the wind, a flicker in the firelight. But for us, it was more than just a mystery. It was a scar on our souls, a chill that ran down our spines every time we looked at the woods. We didn't talk about it much, but it was always there, a ghost story etched into our shared memory. We haven't been back to Baxter. Maybe someday, but not yet. That night, the night the woods watched us, changed us forever. It showed us the thin line between adventure and fear, the darkness that can lurk even in the most beautiful places. Now, don't get me wrong, the mountains still call to me. The whisper of adventure still sings in my ears. But I ain't naive no more. I listen to the wind now, watch the shadows, and keep my flashlight close. 'Cause sometimes the wild ain't just beautiful, it's wild. And sometimes the darkness watches back. But here's the thing, man, it wasn't all bad. We faced something scary together, something that pushed us to our limits and forced us to rely on each other. It forged a bond stronger than any late-night pizza run or weekend adventure ever could. We learned to appreciate the beauty of the wilderness again, but with a newfound respect for its hidden dangers. And you know what? Even now, years later, when I sit by a campfire and the shadows dance on the walls, I can't help but smile a little. Because you know why? The memory of the woods watching us back, the glint of that flashlight in the dark, serves as a reminder. Life's an adventure, man, full of beauty and darkness. And sometimes the scariest stories are the ones that leave you wondering the most. So next time you're out there, enjoy the scenery, breathe in the fresh air, but keep a part of your mind in the shadows, because you never know who or what might be watching. And if you happen to see a flicker of light in the dark, well, let's just say you might not want to stick around to see what made it.